Right now, you got Malik. As far as football players on the national scene from the city of Dayton, you got a quarterback, the starting quarterback in Notre Dame. Malik Zaire is from here, and then we probably just witnessed the college football play that we will see for the next 13, 14 weeks with another alumni from Wayne High School, which is Braxton Miller. Ohio State looks loaded, but before we move to boxing, man, what's your thoughts on Ann Arbor, the Michigan Wolverines? That's our college team. The running backs look so poor to me, man. I don't want to talk about those young men, but we just don't seem to have any outstanding next level playmakers.
Well, Ohio State has such a chokehold on the recruiting in this area, and I kind of figured Michigan was going to need at least a year. Honestly, I think Michigan State has actually surpassed Michigan in regards to the recruiting as well.
Definitely.
Ohio State definitely is the team to beat in this area in both off-season and the regular season. I don't know what Michigan's going to do, but I feel like he at least has to have a 2 or 3 year plan, because you got Notre Dame, you got Michigan State, you got Ohio State, you got the southern schools as well. I've seen a number of Ohio players going to Alabama, going to Georgia, so it's going to be tough. I think talent-wise, this year is not a year for Michigan to really compete big time with any of those aforementioned teams. I think this year,
I was impressed by the defensive line.
Their defense was solid last year.
That's true.
But one thing about defense, it's scheme. A lot of defense can be taught. You have a lot of Penn State has had great linebackers for years that you've never heard at the next level.
Right.
So defense is schemes and putting the right player in the right spot. In offense, you can't. It doesn't matter if you run a 4-2. If you can't catch a ball, you do a team no good on that edge. So my other team that I like, actually, you said Michigan. I'm just going to throw it out there. Virginia Tech is actually my other college team, and
that's one of mine that I keep an eye on.
ESPN jinxed them by showing that halftime when Brewer said it's going to take more than that to knock me out the game, and the next hit pretty much ended him for the next 5-6 weeks at least. So I really don't have much to watch in the college football area. I'm excited that we got so much going on in boxing and MMA at the moment.
Right, which is a perfect segue to what we're getting ready to get into. Yeah, man, a lot of stuff, man. So let's recap quickly. Once again, this is Pay Me No Mind. This is in a series of the Wood Brothers Boxing Barrage. No, our last name is not Wood, but both of us, if you met us individually, would probably tell you to refer to us as Wood. So that's where I get Wood Brothers Boxing Barrage. And I appreciate the support for this series. It does tend to perform pretty well. And boxing is something near and dear to both of our hearts. I'm going to let my brother get in here with this MMA stuff. But Leo Santa Cruz and Abner Mares got it on last week in Staples Arena.
Yep.
Leo prevailed. I think he won a split decision, 114 on one card, 114 on one card, and then the other two cards were 117, 111. I did not agree with that big of a spread between him. I thought Mares did some positive things, and I appreciate a guy that comes out and tries to break any stigmas or go away from his normal approach, his normal tactics and strategy. I just felt like I felt like Leo won the fight, but that's just not my type of fight when a dude smothers one guy. And I just never saw Leo adapt and really change up anything. He did go to the body a little bit and shorten up those shots, but other than that, I just never really. It just wasn't the clean, effective punching that I looked for. Although, I mean, what he landed, or he took almost 1,000, had almost 1,000 punches and whatnot. But what was your thoughts on that fight?
I actually was impressed by Cruz. That was really his first true test against anybody where I think it was really a question of whether that style would be successful or not. So I actually thought that he did a solid job, and I actually agreed with the 117 and 111.
Did you?
Yeah, my problem I had with Mares, even going into the fight, there was a lot of people that said he was a better boxer. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the first 2 rounds, he wore himself out.
Right.
And wasn't able to box.
Right.
I feel like he came out with the thought that he was going to knock this guy out, which, you know, my whole theory on skinny legs and, you know, if you don't have that base, you can't take a punch. But that 120 weight class, it's just not a lot of guys with one punch knockout power. And when you face an elite guy, it really goes out the window. I think Cruz is an exciting, you know, energy boxer, kind of like a lot of your Mexican, you know, the typical Mexican heritage. They come out, they're right in your face.
Warrior spirit.
They both had that, you know, stay in front of you. And I feel like if either of them wilted on that approach, it was Mares. Nothing against him.
I did believe I thought Mares was going to get knocked out around the 8th, early 9th round. So I did roll with Santa Cruz for the fight. But like you said, I agree, man. I think I wonder if Abner made the decision to go to that big pressure when the bell rung.
He was talking about when at the end of the fight, I believe he said, you know, he just got out there and he just thought maybe he could. I think he really thought that he could get the knockout, and I think he wanted to come and show that he was there to fight. I think a lot of his pride, because they were chanting for Cruz, and it seemed like Cruz was, you know, the favorite amongst the Latino fans,
right?
And I think had he boxed maybe the first 4 or 5 rounds and then switched and went with the brawling style mid fight, I think it would have been much more effective. But to come out and do it in the first 2 rounds against a guy that's known to throw well over 150 punches in a round, I just thought it was a bad idea, especially when he couldn't hurt him, and then he didn't commit to the body. So it just was a bad fight plan. And they're talking about a rematch, and they sold 13,000. I think it said 13,000 plus,
something like that,
which is really good for a card that wasn't pay-per-view. PBC came out winning with that fight, so
I think the ratings were pretty good too, the TV ratings, which lends itself to the Mexican following and their support of boxing. I thought it was a good card. I think Abner probably just didn't respect Cruz. I think he said that before, leading into the fight. He didn't really respect Cruz. That was only Cruz's second fight at that weight or something. You know, he was kind of new to that weight class. It was great action. Moving on, this past week we had, I think the weekend after that, actually, Darrell was over the weekend. Anthony Darrell came on Sunday, which was smart because it was opposite of the startup of college football. So I thought that was pretty good timing by the PBC. Darrell faced Marco Antonio Rubio and got a unanimous decision following his loss to Badu Jack, who fights tomorrow night on the card. Any thoughts on this, man? I did not see this one, but I got a point I'm gonna make. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, you know, I've been a fan of the Darrell brothers since I first saw them fight after the Olympics, and I still think that they both are very talented. Now, I think Andre is the taller, faster one, and I think his skill set is a little more dominant. He has some more gifts,
upside.
Yes, but I think that Anthony's the smarter of the two fighters. Andre's the longer, faster one, and Anthony's the smarter, more.
He's
compact.
More. He brands himself as the dog, right?
Yes, and that's the difference. You know, I've seen numerous fights where Andre runs or uses his length, throws 1-2 punches. And
we talked about that fight years ago with Dennis Stevenson when he got off on a bad foot with me.
Yes,
but
you don't have to worry about that with Anthony. Anthony's gonna come to fight, but the problem is when you have that skill and that's all you do, it's easier to train and prepare for that. I thought I've seen Rubio fight before. I really don't think he was too scared of that matchup just when he saw it was made. But, you know, it's a good win, and maybe he's trying to get himself back to get a rematch against Jack, because I really think that the Jack fight, he didn't expect it to be that kind of a fight for him at all. So maybe this is a good tune-up for part 2.
All I'm going to say, man, is I've been hoping for this collection of brothers and other fighters around that 160, 168, 154. The Charlos, even Cotto, I guess, maybe even Alvarez to an extent. I've just been waiting for some of these guys to step up and present Demetrius Andrade. Some of these guys to present a challenge to Triple G, who we'll be getting to in a second. And so Triple G blew Marco Antonio Rubio out in 2 rounds. And now I see Anthony Durrell sit here and dance around with him and carry him for 10 rounds. I don't even think he got a knockdown in the fight.
And then they had a really brutal supposed 10th round where neither of them went down. So that just doesn't bode well, in my opinion, for who in the hell we are actually going to get to test Golovkin out if Lemieux's not successful in doing it. So that's all I'm saying, man. A good win, maybe that does position himself for another run at Jack. We'll see what Jack does tomorrow night. Yeah, man. I mean, but it was, yeah. That's just my point. Is I'm just kind of surprised he didn't really get him out of there. Then, which was a golden nugget for me, was to find out that we actually had a fight on another PBC card on Fox Sports 1 midweek on a Tuesday night. I'm not the biggest Austin Trout fan, but I mean, it was boxing, so I was excited. Did you get to check that one? Yeah, you said you did check it out. Austin, I mean, he's a pro, and he's a fighter. I give him that, and he wants to fight the best. I just don't know if his skill set is there to go. I think we already kind of have an idea of what his ceiling is. Joey Hernandez, I guess. That's what was some drama here. Was a potential challenger or opponent of Trout. Julian Williams was saying, challenging Austin Trout, that you got to look better against Joey Hernandez than I did, and Austin Trout actually got a knockout of Joey Hernandez. So, what you think that do for his career, man? Not saying that Hernandez isn't a name worth putting on your resume, but the guy struggled to make weight. He really didn't have a lot of movement, and Trout beat his body up. I mean, he did exactly what you should do against a guy in that situation. I didn't think Trout looked great. I still think that division is full of some pretty heavy-handed people, and then you have Lara, who's probably the best moving, craftiest guy out of the group. I don't see Trout, from what I saw yesterday. I watched it last night, but I don't see him really making much of a change or making much noise with that victory.
I give him credit, because if you can ever get a guy out of there, and you do it, that does position you for bigger things. I'm like you. He's a little too mechanical for me, or he thinks a little too much in the ring, and he doesn't have a whole lot of pop. I will give him credit, though. He changed up his strategy and started going to the body and investing. You see a guy with a soft middle, you might as well go there. And I thought he did change that up, beat up his body somewhat. I don't know, man. He just not next level for me. And Julie, if he is to move on and fight Julian Williams, I checked that fight out. But like I said, it was great that Boxing On was in the middle of the week, which leads us into later on tonight with the Stevenson Carpensy fight coming on Spike at 9:00. We can get into that one in a minute, but so we get into these upcoming fights that are kind of the tentpole fights. That we're trying to see what questions can get answered, how do they affect the rankings, what big time fights do they set up down the road. It's those types of big name, and actually I know some pay-per-views are coming up in here, because Cotto and Alvarez are on pay-per-view, and I think this is Golovkin's debut on pay-per-view. So we'll jump into it first with Cotto Alvarez coming up. Actually, let's go to Golovkin Lemieux, which is in October 17th. What's your expectations for that one, man?
I've seen Lemieux fight. I've seen Golovkin fight. About the only chance I think Lemieux has is if the fact that Golovkin's 33, and just maybe you never know which fight might be the fight where he starts to show the signs.
I didn't even know he was that old. I didn't realize that.
At 33, Lemieux's 26.